Alright guys, let me go ahead and turn this air conditioner down because we're live and I'm probably looking really sweaty and maybe a little bit glitchy. I hope not too glitchy. I'm kind of doing an experiment with this camera, seeing if it looks good on a live stream. I'm gonna go back and look at how this all kind of came out and look at how the picture from this camera looks after the fact. But today I'm coming live for actually the second time today, because I want to kind of sit down with you guys, do something a little bit similar to some other videos that I did before called Finding the Cheapest Cars on Craigslist, but I didn't do those videos live. I recorded them in a similar way, so you'll see my screen, you'll see what I see, but they weren't live, so you guys couldn't chat with me, you guys couldn't talk to me, couldn't send me links. But this time around, because I am in fact live, you guys can actually send live chats and can kind of just go ahead and let me know what you think as it's going on. So a little bit of criteria. Most of the cars I'm gonna be looking at are I'm gonna try and keep them around $1,000. So I think $1,000 car qualifies as cheap. Some of them might be a little bit over 1,000. Maybe you can, if you found a car similar in your area, maybe you could talk them down just a little bit. And some of the cars will be way under. And I'm not just going to find the cheapest ones available. I'm actually going to be looking for the best deals. So, you might be able to get a car for $100, but if the paperwork doesn't work out with it, or something along those lines, or if it has serious major issues, obviously that's not really a cheap car because you have to put a ton of time and money into it. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into looking for the cars. Today we're going to be looking at one of my local Craigslist here. This is the Richmond Craigslist. I'm also kind of local to the Fredericksburg Craigslist, but I find that the Richmond Craigslist usually has some cheaper cars than Fredericksburg, but they're also worse cars, if that makes any sense. So so we're just going to go ahead and jump into it. I've already looked at some cars today. There might be some I haven't seen, but you're seeing it. You're seeing my live reactions here, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, so we're going to make sure we go by owner, because it's really annoying to see all these dealer ads clogging us up, talking about down payments, and you'll type in a price, but they'll make the price just the down payment, and then you still have a lot more to pay. So let's just go ahead and start off by setting our minimum price to 100. I do this just because there's some people that will put like a single figure number into their ad, but really they'll be looking, or like they'll put like 12 as the amount that they want, but they're really looking for 12,000, not just $12, obviously, so that would be out of our range. And we're gonna go up to 1,500 because a lot of the cars priced at 1,500, you can it's not totally out of the realm of possibility to say that you might be able to talk somebody down to about the $1,000 range and be where we're talking about. But before we get into that, while I was just talking to you guys, this kind of was just catching my eye here. They had a picture of a Super Duty truck in what looks like a living room, but I'm assuming it's a dealer showroom. But just the way that it's decorated makes it look like a living room. It's kind of funny. I am curious to see. Yeah, it's obviously a dealer showroom. It's just funny the way they had the place decorated out, made it look like a living room. Nice truck, but probably I don't know like what 2015 F450 for, you know, King Ranch really goes for, but I really feel like 50 grand is probably on the high side. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and change that out. So yeah, most of the cars you're seeing, I'm seeing them for the first time as well. I'm seeing a couple of 1, 2, 3 without even scrolling. I see 3 Ford Tauruses, and they're all over $1,000. I'm gonna tell you right now, Ford Taurus over $1,000 might sound like a good idea. You know, might, you know, for a $1,200, 2,000. This one's an 04 and it's $1,200 bucks. I'm gonna tell you right now, just stay right away from it unless you're getting it for dirt cheap. Tauruses are just horrible. They're really horrible cars. You really like. I had a Ford Taurus that I had got for $400. It was a 04 and it had 115,000 miles. I put a fuel pump in this thing. I got it all going and driving good, and I posted it for like $1,700 or something like that, and it took me weeks to sell that stupid car, and I finally let it go for like $1,500. And the car ran and drove good when the woman took it. She like was driving that thing between like where I live in like DC into Southern Maryland. She was putting like 100 miles a day on it, and she got like almost to the day 30 days out of that car, and it blew up the motor. Now mind you, she put probably 5,000-10,000 miles on the car in that short period of time, but still, like, that astounded me that that could happen. So let's roll right down. So right now, right off the hop, we got a Mitsubishi Galant, 500 bucks. So this is the first time I'm seeing this car, so I kind of am, you know, kind of processing the information as you are. So it says it has a V6, sunroof, failed inspection because of an oxygen sensor, same thing as an O2 sensor. The engine does knock and oil light is on. I have the oxygen sensor and oil pump for the car, need gone. Still drives pretty good other than that. So, okay, whoever owns this car, and if that person ends up seeing it, because it is local to me, I'm gonna tell you right now, buying an oxygen sensor and an oil pump for an engine that knocks is a total waste of time. That car needs an engine. It knocks. It's over. It doesn't hold oil pressure because it has a bad rod bearing or crank bearing in it, which is making it knock and making it so it doesn't hold oil pressure. The pump probably works fine. It has no oil pressure because it has a bad bearing, hence the knock. As far as the O2 sensor goes, that's you know, pretty minor stuff compared to the other problems with this car. Now, as far as the price goes, I'd give them exactly what the junkyard would give them, because you got to swap the motor. And if you got to pay somebody to swap the motor, this ain't even worth your time. I'm just going to be honest with you. But yeah, I would give them what the junkyard would give them on this car. Probably less because I'm picking it up. But I'm not even going to contact these people. I mean, they're crazy. They obviously have underestimated the issues with their car. But you see that a lot. You know, that's nothing to get too tied up over. You know, there's a lot of people that have major issues with their car, and they think that it's nothing. So, and then there's people that have nothing wrong with their car and they think it's major. So it goes both ways. So the next one we're looking at here is a 95 Mitsubishi Eclipse GS. I used to own one of these, and I drove it from Maine to upstate New York, so probably like 600-700 miles each way, and it made it almost all the way home, but the car was so rusty, the particular one I had, that it ripped the rear control arm out of it. I talked about it in a previous video, so I'm not even going to read it. I'm going to look at the pictures first and see if there's anything obviously wrong with it. It actually looks alright in the pictures. It's a pretty clean looking car altogether. Just kind of looking. They got some home audio speakers in the back as their subwoofers. So here's something interesting. So for those of you that might not be really deep into like all this car knowledge and the differences, the minor differences between every car, Eclipses, especially these 90s Eclipses, they are worth money, but you got to know what you're looking for. So one thing that is always like a major thing. The GS and I think the RS, I think they have an RS Eclipse of these years, they are pretty much not worth anything. The engine is somehow very similar to a Dodge Neon engine. During this time, Chrysler and Mitsubishi were kind of like the same company, so there was like a lot of crossover. They made Eagle, which was just Mitsubishi vehicles, and then a couple of Chrysler vehicles that they rebranded as Eagle, and they made like a line of cars, but they also were like sharing cars. So like this car is like the same thing as like an Eagle Talon, and I think like a Stratus, that's like the same thing as an Eagle Vision. So you know, there was crossover between, but anyway, so this engine, which is in the RS and the GS, which is a GS, is a, I think they call it a 420A motor, so it's the same thing as a Dodge Neon motor. They're not worth anything. I'll just be honest. It's the same thing as what I had. They're not fast by any means. They're very, very slow. That's the joke. Eclipse GS is going slow, and Eclipse RS is really slow. That's what the acronyms are colloquially called. But I mean, as far as a car is concerned, I mean, if you're gonna buy it just to have a cheap car, you know, I mean, it's got a pretty new inspection on it, so it's got that. Let's see what they say about it. So they say that they are selling it for their brother who is leaving for the military. It has 181,000 miles, kind of common among a import, you know, like a Mitsubishi like this with some years on it. Clean title, well, that's always a must. Good inspection. 5-speed manual. It's all stock minus the sound system, which is probably worse than stock. The timing belt has been replaced. The entire head was redone around 160,000. So what they probably mean by that is this thing had broken a timing belt, is what I'm going to guess, and bent a valve. So they had to have valves and guides put in it, and maybe even had the head decked. I'm sure it was something like that, which was definitely not worth doing on a car like this. But some people, you know, they're funny about that. They'll just fix it no matter what. They'll spend whatever it takes. So it's got new windshield wipers, so okay, that's not really worth anything, but okay. New EGR, that's an exhaust gas recirculator. Throttle body, throttle position sensor, all have been cleaned. Okay, so they're saying that the EGR, throttle body, and throttle position sensor have all been cleaned. Has a new idle air control valve, spark plug, coil pack, and coil wires. There's a dent in the hood, has scratches / dings that you would expect out of a 23-year-old vehicle, and it is showing its age in paint. So they're saying that has a check engine light. They're saying that it needs a left front wheel speed sensor and has a rough idle. Tires will probably have to be replaced before next year's inspection. Alright, so here's the thing. On this car, first of all, let me just start off. If the car ran perfect altogether, it's worth $750, period. If it didn't have any troubles. But this car has troubles. So it looks like they've thrown a bunch of parts in this car after most likely breaking a timing belt. I don't know. They didn't say that's what happened, but the fact that they did the timing belt and they did the cylinder head at 160,000 miles means that they probably broke the timing belt at 160,000 miles. You wouldn't take a cylinder head off a car like this and not put a timing belt on it. That's just redundant. Why would you do that? So I'm going to say that they probably were both done. After that, my guess is, because it only has, what did they say, 181,000 miles, so it doesn't have a whole ton of miles after. What I'm guessing is after all this work was done, it still ran like crap. So they've thrown a bunch of parts in it, tried cleaning the throttle body, tried cleaning the TPS, the throttle position sensor, EGR. They just can't get ahead of this thing. Let me see here. Because what I'm going to go ahead and say Yeah, I don't see where it says anything about it here. I'm thinking that this thing needs a catalytic converter, but it could be worse. If you were ever going to look at a car with a story like this, first of all, you gotta read in deeper. This is why having some automotive knowledge helps you if you're looking for cheap cars, because you would never think, oh yeah, somebody snapped the timing belt in this car and bent valves in the cylinder head. Oh yeah, maybe, you know, whoever did the valve job didn't, you know, lap the valves properly. Maybe they didn't seat the guides properly. You know, there's a couple of different things, you know, when you have a car apart that far and put it back together, that can't be right. But if all this stuff hadn't been mentioned, just saying that, you know, they had tried, you know, cleaning the throttle body and replacing all these little parts, you know, and they said it was still idling rough, I'd be tempted to say that the catalytic converter is on its way out. So, but never know. Also, the fact that they said it has a check engine light for a front left wheel speed sensor, that's like that's a pretty big red flag. That means to me that it has a check engine light. They know that the left front wheel speed sensor has a problem because they've plugged it into a scanner. But if they plugged it into a scanner, they should know what the check engine light is on for, because a wheel speed sensor will not turn on a check engine light. That is totally separate from the CEL system. So you know, it's just, this car is really fishy, and it's not worth $1150. I mean, it's not, even if it didn't have a fishy story. So Paul has commented and says that I didn't drop the mic earlier. I told Paul when he commented that he commented on a previous video of mine saying that I should drop the mic, and the mic is on a stand, it's on like a boom stand, so I can't drop it unless I take the stand apart. So it's not really an option. So this car right here, I feel like I have to talk about it, but I'm gonna tell you right now, it's not worth it. I haven't even looked at this car, this Firebird that I'm clicking through the pictures on. Oh, it brought me into it. Yeah, so I didn't even have to look at it, and I knew that it wasn't worth it. So body and interior in good shape, has new front tires and a good transmission, nice stereo, motor has a knock, and it's a V6. So yeah, it's a V6. They want $800. They're smoking something, man. They're not getting that for it. Alright, here's something that piques my interest. A Chevy K10. So, this is a square body truck. Says it has a brand new motor and runs great. Has a 350 in it. It is four-wheel drive, and the way I know that, because it does say over here on the side, but I didn't look at that earlier. But the way I know that it's four-wheel drive is, if we look, the hub right here. So if you see a truck with a hub like that, and it's like one of these trucks, it's four-wheel drive. You can tell from 20 feet away. So has a brand new motor, so I'm assuming it probably runs all right. Doesn't look like a brand new motor, but they claim it's a brand new motor. Maybe it's brand new on the inside. I don't know. I'd have to hear it run to really decide. And just because it has a brand new motor doesn't mean it's any good. Paul is asking, whatever happened to the girl that wrecked my truck? You stay in touch. So the first thing, Paul, that you need to understand is this happened, yeah, wow, happened like almost 10 years ago that this wreck happened. So it's the first thing you need to understand. And no, I haven't talked to her in a while. The last I heard was that she was somehow trying to make a claim against my insurance for the hospital trip, which she was not successful in such claims. I don't know the specifics of why, but yeah, she wasn't successful with it. And I haven't really heard from her since. I think she was like trying to squeeze me for like the money, but like it wasn't even that much. I mean, it was a lot, but she didn't ride in an ambulance, I don't think, and she like had like an ER visit. They put staples in her head from the cut on her head, and that was it. There wasn't really anything else. I'm sure it was a lot. I'm sure it was like over 1,000, but I'll tell you that the insurance didn't pay for any of my anything, and I was way worse off than her. So if they weren't paying for me, then they weren't paying for her. And so with that being said, on top of that, the hospital that we were taken to ended up writing off all the bills that they claimed I owed them. Like, it was like I had to fill out like some paperwork, and they were just like, yep, we cleared it right out. So I never ended up having to pay anything for the hospital bills. I don't see why she would either. We worked at the same place, made the same amount of money, so I don't know. She was just trying to sweat me for some money or what, but it wasn't gonna happen. Paul says, did you squeeze her in the bedroom? No, I didn't, Paul, because she wrecked my truck before I ever had the chance, man. So anyway, the Chevy K10, that actually would be something worth looking at. I know it doesn't look like much, but I'm going to tell you something. These trucks are worth money, man. If you were to spruce this up in a minor way, if it runs good, I've been seeing these trucks come up in value quite a bit. So I don't know why it's so cheap if it actually has a brand new motor in it, but yeah, it seems to be not that bad. So definitely needs a little love, but not that horrible. Toyota Sienna van, $600. I don't think I really need to explain to you guys why that's not worth anything. That's pretty much junk. I don't care how good it runs. It's worth junk price. You can't do anything with it. Oldsmobile Aurora. I have a hard time enunciating that term. Okay, so first of all, we have yet another delusional seller. So all you have to do is read the first line of this ad. Here we have a hard-to-find classic that everyone in Hollywood making movies and videos wants. Not only is this a fun and powerful sports car, but it is a long-term collectible that is gaining value every day. Still with Virginia antique tags, and you can keep them for an extra $100. Okay, I'm not sure if this guy's joking, but I gotta tell you, for one thing, you can't just sell your car and sell the tags on it for $100. That's not exactly legal. Yeah, I mean, you can give somebody the tag, but technically you don't own the license plates in Virginia. So, you know, the only car Oldsmobile got right, make it yours with 178,000 pampered miles. So I'm not sure if this person's being sarcastic or not. It's a pretty clean looking car, honestly. I don't think it's really worth that much. I mean, if it's inspected, which it doesn't sound like it is because they've put antique tags on it. I don't even know how this car qualifies for antique tags, because I was under the impression it had to be 25 years old. So if it's a 98, it's only 20, it's only 20 years old if it's a 98. So how he has antique tags on it, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is only 20 years that your car has to be to get antique tags, but I don't know. Would I buy this car? No. Would not with the intention of like trying to make money off it anyway. It's a nice car. Like, if you want a car like this, and I mean, it's cheap, but not like super cheap. Not like something I go out of my way for. If somebody I knew offered me this car for $1,000, I would buy it. But I wouldn't like go meet up with somebody I don't know and buy this car. Like, there's just no reason. It's not worth really anything. I'll tell you right now, this 01 Jetta, I don't even have to look at it, and I know it's priced exactly what it's worth. You could buy these Jettas all day long for that number. Because I just sold one with the same motor and everything for $1,100, so there's nothing special about that. Oh, that one's been flagged. Must have been a scam. Let's look at this. I looked at this one earlier. So this is just like, this truck has some nice wheels on it. I think it is 4-wheel drive. Yeah, it says it's 4-wheel drive. But other than that, there's really nothing special about it. It's got nice wheels. Tires are spanked on it. It's a long bed regular cab, half-ton truck. And it looks like it's having transmission problems, so they're asking $1,500. Maybe because it has nice wheels. I don't know how, like, I'd have to see the wheels in person to see the condition, because if these wheels are like severely pitted, which looks like is a distinct possibility from this picture. Yeah, they got some pitting on them. It might be repairable. If these wheels are actually any good, you know, I'd say that they're worth $500, and I'd say the rest of the truck is worth $500. So, I mean, yeah, that's the story on that. So, I don't know. You could probably buy it for $1,000, but you know that you're gonna have to put a transmission in it. So I don't think you'll come out ahead of the game on that thing, because the Dodge transmissions for that year are gonna be expensive, because there's so many that go bad. That's like so common in those body style Dodges to lose a transmission. We had a couple of these like old beater cars, but this one catches my interest the most. 95 Geo Metro. It's got a 3-cylinder, a 1-liter 3-cylinder engine and a 5-speed manual with a brand new clutch. Only 150,000 miles on the whole car. Hasn't been on the road in a couple years because the clutch needed to be replaced, but looks like he's good now. It needs a new battery, which ain't gonna be a real big deal. It says it gets 40 to 50 miles per gallon. He only wants $600, dude. I actually should go buy this. This would be sweet, dude. I bet Paul Tracy here would drive the shit out of this car. Dude, look at this thing, man. What a weapon. Seriously though. Yeah, man. Only 150,000 miles, and it's stick shift. See, yeah, Paul just said he would drive it, so there you go. I would like, since it's only a 1-liter engine anyway, and that seems to be fine, I'd like to like see somebody put like a crotch rocket motor on one of these, like a Hayabusa engine in it. I don't know if it would be any fast though, because it's still a heavy-ish car for a motor like that, but it would sound crazy. Yeah, I'm into it. I wouldn't buy it to sell though, because I know nobody's going to buy that thing. 93 Mustang, $1,500. It's only a V6 though, and it's an automatic. Yeah, I'd say there isn't really a lot of information on it, but it seems like it's an okay buy, but I'd get it for like $700 or less. So pretty much half of what he's asking. Paul says that he used to race cars and to Google him. Alright, that's exactly what I'll do. So let's jump into Google. Paul Tracy racing, race car driver. Let's see him. Here we go. Oh, Paul Tracy, dude, you're from Canada. I didn't know that. What kind of let's see here. Let's look at his Wikipedia page. So, I know so much about you now, Paul. You're from Canada. Oh, so you drove Indy cars. Okay. Know your birthday. And let's see here. Motorsports results. So, we're going through all of them right here, buddy. See how good you were. So, let's see here. Raced once, won that one race. Raced 11 times in the HFC. These are all weird little sub things here. Okay. Races. So we got NASCAR Truck Series. 84th, bro. If you're not first, you're last. Almost won Indy in 2002. Well, let's look here. Indy Racing League. Race. So, car number 26. Races 1. Poles. Big goose egg on the Indy in 2002, buddy. You didn't even get a pole position, dude. Didn't win. Didn't get a pole position. You were 34th. Okay. Almost won, huh? Come on, Paul. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I would never say this to the real Paul Tracy. I don't know the real Paul Tracy. I mean, you are the real Paul Tracy, but I don't believe that you happen to be the race car driver, Paul Tracy. It's possible. That'd be really weird. That'd be really weird if I'm actually talking, like I got an actual NASCAR and IndyCar driver talking to me on my live stream. I'd have to ask, if you are and you want to make that claim, you should, I just want proof, you know. I don't know how you'd prove it. You could FaceTime me, then I could like compare the pictures or something. That'd be really weird though. That'd be really weird. Let's keep looking at some cars before we bore everybody to death. Alright. Paul Tracy says technology. Yeah. It's definitely a possibility. It's also like a pretty well possible that you're just a guy that happens to have the same name. Like I used to work with a guy named Steve Miller for a while. And actually there's a guy I work for all the time, like owns a business right next to my shop here, and I work on a lot of his stuff, and his name is Tom Petty. He's definitely not Tom Petty the musician, but he is named Tom Petty. So when you think about it like that, there's definitely like a lot of people that share names. So Paul Tracy says rock and roll. Paul, do you rock and roll? Do you play any instruments? Let's see here. Here's something interesting. So 2000 Ranger with a 3-liter V6 and a manual, but it has 280,000 miles, man. Runs good, just don't drive it anymore. AC doesn't work, needs a windshield. Needs brakes all the way around, needs rear brakes, needs marker lamps. So, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is a $400 truck. Unfortunately, because the 3-liter Ford engine is not very good. Paul says he thinks that I play the skin flute. I didn't know that was... I mean, what does a skin flute sound like? Is it a good instrument? Is it a rocking instrument? So, we got a 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee. So it looks like has 240,000 miles. That's a huge red flag to me. Unless it has a straight 6 in it, which it does not. It says it has a V8. Not looking good for this thing. Heat and AC works, leather seats. Says this truck runs fine once it's been driven for a while. The truck shuts off when idling. So, yeah, no. I would say to avoid V8 Cherokees, unless they are really well taken care of, they don't have a whole ton of miles. This thing has a ton of miles, and it's taken care of. It looks like the interior is pretty decent in it, but 240,000 miles, nah, man. These Chrysler V8s that they were putting in these things, just they had issues, and with those kind of miles, I don't want to be a party to it. Not for $800. So yeah, that's a no-go for that. Here's something. This is something I'm into right here. 72 F250, and it's a camper special. What does camper special mean? Essentially, the way I understand it, and maybe somebody will correct me later on from Wikipedia, because sometimes that happens. But as far as I understand it, it means that they had like heavier springs in the back, and that it's a regular cab long bed truck. So, like I said, I might be wrong about that. That's something that I've just heard over time. Says that it's a 72 two-wheel drive. Most of these trucks are two-wheel drive. It's very rare to see these 70s pickup trucks, especially Fords, that are four-wheel drive. I don't think I've really seen but maybe a handful of 70s Ford and Dodge pickups that were four-wheel drive. Chevrolet, it seems like they're like, as long as you're newer than like 76, it wasn't too hard to find one that was four-wheel drive. But the Fords, not so much. Only ones that you really see are like Broncos that were four-wheel drive from Ford. They did make them, but I think that the option was really expensive and it just wasn't necessary for most people. So he says the truck is complete minus a few chrome pieces. Runs, but the fuel tank is clogged, but he has another tank to go with it. $750. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably try to get this thing for $500 or $600. Says it's all or best offer, so I think you probably could get it for $5 or $6. Make sure you bring a trailer with you. Would you make money off it? Maybe, if you got it running good, took some better pictures in this, but not like, you're not gonna make like a fortune off of it. But if you want like a cool old truck, this would be a thing to get. My first car was a 78 Ford F100, and like I said in one of my previous videos, I also had a 74 F100. I never had like a 70s F250, but I mean, I could see how it would be kind of cool to have. So, keeping looking. Another Ford Taurus, junk, don't want to touch it. Honda Civic, only $500. So, runs great, is reliable, AC, heat, blah blah blah, 217,000 miles. So it's not like low miles by any means, and it's kind of high miles, but not that horrible. It says it's a bad starter, and the passenger side brake light has a crack in it. So yeah, okay. They would have to put a starter in this thing for me to really consider buying it. Plus, it's got some rust issues here. I just see here. It's a pretty beat up car. Like I said, if they put a starter in it first and can prove it runs, I'd be interested in it. But I'm not gonna drag a starter with me just to see if this car runs, 'cause it's not really worth that much. It's pretty much worth right around what they're asking for it. This is something interesting, kind of off topic in a way, but a Ford L7000. So has a 3208 cat in it. Runs but needs a battery. Clean title. Must pick up $1,000. So yeah, I like it. Would I buy it? Maybe. I might get a hold of this guy. I'd have to figure out what it would cost me to tow it, because this is actually something I'm interested in marginally, especially if it just so happens to have hydraulic brakes, which it could, because some of the 7000 series Fords have hydraulic brakes, and some of the 7000 series Ford, some of them have air brakes. If they have hydraulic brakes, I can slap not for hire on the side and use it to haul cars. If it has air brakes, then that's not going to happen. Plus, it's a diesel, which is something I'm looking for. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but I bet towing it would cost a fortune. Really, the only person that's going to be able to tow that is going to be somebody with a heavy-duty wrecker, or somebody that has a low bed that they can run out and throw that thing on and they can haul it. So here we go. I didn't see this before. So it says it has a clean title. Sometimes when I see something that's hit in the front like that, I want to make sure. Looks like it was hit pretty good in the front. Looks like they put it in a ditch because you can see the dirt. So as far as like this thing goes, Why would somebody want to buy it? Well, two different types of people are going to want to buy this thing. Number one type of person that might want to buy it would be somebody that has a Tahoe or a Suburban or Silverado or anything of that nature. They might want it just for parts. The other type of person that might want it would be somebody that wants LS engine parts. And if this thing runs, that's exactly what I would do with it. I would go and yank the motor out of it. I already have one 5.3. This should have a 5.3, being a Tahoe. I think most, if not all, Tahoes have a 5.3. Again, I'm sure somebody will come out of the woodwork and correct me if I'm wrong about that. So, yeah, I'm into this. I actually might grab it if it starts up, runs, and can move a couple feet so I can drive it up onto my trailer. And I'll do the same thing I did to the Suburban and jank the motor out of that. So, hang on one second here. Just going to go ahead and... Okay. Alright, so I want to kind of look at some of these chat messages. It's a complete fiasco with Paul here, man. He's always doing this thing where he'll retract the messages, but he's left a couple here for me to look at. One of them, he asks, what are my top 5 favorite vehicles? So, I guess to start off there, I don't know. I guess it depends on what you mean by favorite. Do you mean like my favorite to drive, my favorite to sell, my favorite to buy, my favorite to work on? I mean, it's hard for me to say like that with any type of assurity. I do have a knack for going out and buying like late 90s, early 2000 F-150s. I don't like them, but I keep buying them and I don't know why. Paul says to own and to sell. As far as owning vehicles, geez. You know, I guess I would only talk about the things I've owned and really used and had time to use. I had a 2000 Silverado with a 4.8 in it, and I actually like that truck a lot. I actually had a 2000 Silverado with a 4.8 four-wheel drive regular cab, and then I had a 99, so like a 99 and a half. So it was the same body style, that newer body style, also with a 4.8, but it was a GMC Sierra, and I liked those trucks a lot. I really liked them, and I kind of wish like I could still have them, but they both like eventually got to a point where like they had a lot of miles. They were still pretty reliable though. I'm sorry if like this camera's glitching. I'm just trying to switch up cameras and change my seating position a little bit. It looks good on my end, but then when I look at like how it's coming through the stream, it looks like there's like it's pretty high resolution, so it's making it kind of choppy by the time it comes through the internet. Like I was just saying though, I do like those like, so that's where I'm at on that. As far as cars go, I've had a couple Acura Integras. I like those. You know, they're not fast like some people try to pretend like they are, but they just do everything well, and you know, you can really just run them hard and run them a lot. They're pretty nice to have. So we're at 2 different cars. As far as to sell, my favorite cars to sell seem to be like Nissan Sentras. I'm pretty happy to get a Nissan Sentra because it's just like that thing I can buy at like such a cheap price and sell for a good price. I always make good money on a Sentra. As far as What else do I like? So Sentras, those sell easy. They're cheap to get. Um, a couple of times I've gotten Toyota Corollas, and Corollas are really good because their previous owner gets tired of them, especially like a 90s Corolla, and you can pick it up for like $500 or $600, and then if you pretty much just make it run pretty good and throw it right back online, people will snap that thing up for $1,500 all day long. I had a Corolla I bought for $500, put a strut in it, and changed a couple tires, so I was into it like $600, and I put it up for $1,500, and it sold the same night, like literally right away, and I had 100 people interested in it, and it wasn't even that good of a car. So Corollas are good, but I don't come across enough that are cheap enough that don't have like super bad issues. So there's those. As far as, and then Acuras, I can go out and buy a TL with like 240,000 miles, and it will sell for 1,700. You know, so I can go out and say, oh, it's got really high miles, it's probably gonna have transmission problems soon, whatever. Tell them whatever I gotta tell them. Pick the thing up for like $600-800, sell it for 1,600-1,700 right away, like within a couple days. So, you know, Acuras, I did the same thing. I got an MDX, same thing with that. They'll sell. I don't know what it is, and they both had really high miles, but they still sold pretty good. I had a lot of people interested. So TLs and MDXs, early 2000, those ones are pretty easy to work with. Paul says, let's open up a used car lot in your area. Let's make some money. Paul, if you want to come to my area and finance all that and acquire all the proper licensing, I'd be happy to help you out with that. As far as being directly involved in owning one, I don't really want to be financially exposed as a car dealer, because I think that there are going to be things happening in the near future that are going to make it not as profitable to be like a buy here pay here dealer, especially, or a smaller used car lot. I think that just looking at the way that the markets are going, it's not looking real good as far as that goes. I think the regulations are stiffening up and all that. So, but if you want to do it, I'll be happy to be your paid consultant, and I'll be happy to acquire the vehicles and arrange transportation of the vehicles and make it very easy for you to get started. So that's my offer to you, Paul, if you want to start a used car lot, and I'll tell you how to price them and everything, and you just pay me as your consultant, and that'll be all good. Paul says, have you been studying Alfred Hitchcock and all his camera angles? No. This just happened to be a good spot for a camera and a tripod, so that's where I put it. It seems like a oversimplification of the situation, I suppose, but yeah, that's how that happened. So now that we've had a little bit of a break, I'm starting to get kind of hungry, honestly, but we'll look at some more cars. So let's go back. I actually think I'm going to try and get a hold of this guy about this Tahoe, because if it runs, I want it. Here we go. So, is it an 01 or is it an 05? It says 01 to 05 Honda Civic. I don't understand. But he says 130,000 on the replaced engine and transmission, 342,000 on the rest of the car. Yeah. Okay, buddy. Just because it costs you $1,500 to fix your car doesn't make your car worth $1,500. Unfortunately. At the end of the day, I don't foresee buying that at almost 400,000 miles on the body. Look at this thing. What a nice little land yacht. Here we go. Oh, it's got that jumper seat where you sit backwards in the back. Man, this thing is sweet. It's got a V8. It's got probably a 350 with a throttle body injection. It looks like. Seat's a little rough on the driver's side. That's all right though. Dang, dude. Yeah, I mean, honestly though, this thing ain't worth anything. Unfortunately, as cool as it would be, the Oldsmobile Classic Cruiser. Cavalier, pretty low miles, honestly. 01, only has 113,000 miles. Good inspection. I don't know how good. Oh, that's not good. Looks like the dash has been torn to shit. But the rest of the interior doesn't look bad. Oh yeah, I start looking closer at these pictures and it's not looking so hot. It's got pretty low miles, but yeah, the dash being ripped apart. Looks like it's got some stuff ripped up back here. And Cavaliers are not like really the best cars anyway. They're kind of horrible actually. So I'd say you'd be safe to buy this car at about 5. I wouldn't go over 500 on this car, even though it has pretty low miles. I had a Cavalier with about that kind of miles, but it was a 4-door, and it was a little bit older, and I bought it for 4, and it took me quite a while to sell it, and I only ended up getting like 9 for it. So they're asking 8. The other one I sold, I only got 9, so I'd have to get them down pretty far. 96 Ranger. Truck doesn't run, cranks but doesn't start. Tried starting fluid, seems to not be getting any spark. Let's see here. 137,000 miles. Has a current inspection yet till April. Has a clean title. So, I mean, it's a 4-cylinder truck, so it's not getting any spark. It needs a coil pack, most likely. So, that's the situation with that. I'd probably try and get it for 5 and hope for the best. But just be aware, because anything you don't hear run, you might get it to run and it might not run very good. So, just keep that in mind. Legacy. Let's look at these. I actually had a Legacy for a while. The one that I had was all-wheel drive, but it had a broken front differential, so it would only drive the back wheels. And with an automatic Legacy, it only drives the front wheels it only drives the rear wheels after you're over like whatever, like so many couple miles an hour, like whatever, 5 miles an hour for instance. So that's the only point it'll start driving the back wheels. And then so it'll be just front wheel drive from a stop to like creeping forward. Then after you exceed 40 miles an hour, it turns back into front wheel drive again. So what was I gonna say? So what I had to do was I went ahead and I bypassed that solenoid and made it so that it had the back wheels engaged at all times, which was simply cutting a wire in the harness. But you had to find the proper wire for it. So I had to like trace it to the PCM and everything. And then at that point, it was only rear wheel drive. It didn't have all wheel drive after I did that. But at least I could drive it. So that was cool, and I liked it actually. So, and this is the one to have, the one with this front end. The other front ends are kind of ugly, honestly. Not that this is very good looking either, but. So let's see what they have to say about it. So it says 4-cylinder. I think all Legacies of this generation are 4-cylinder. 2.5, all-wheel drive, good condition. It says it leaks a little oil. Not sure where it's coming from. He just adds oil every month. You replace the spark plugs, cables, and coils. I don't think that this one's hard to replace spark plugs on. I think it's one of the ones that has the plugs in the side, in the top of the head rather than in the sides. Because some of these Subarus, you gotta pull the motor out just to change spark plugs. But I think this is not one of them. He's the only owner. Alright. I mean, Don't know. 151,000 miles. Doesn't say that anything's wrong with it. Doesn't look rusty. It's only 975 bucks. If you're looking for something to drive, this is the one you want, man. If you're looking for something to sell, you might have to talk them down a little. But other than that, it's pretty decent. Let's see if we can see how new the inspection is. Inspection just ran out, so 2 months ago. So doesn't have an inspection on it, but if you don't live in Virginia, that doesn't really matter to you anyway. But right now, doesn't have an inspection. So I'm gonna go up to an hour long and then I'll stop. Let's look at this thing. No information, not worth looking at. Oh, Prelude. Here we go. So, just looking at the pictures, it's an automatic, so that hurts the value quite a bit. Car looks fairly okay in these pictures. I'm not sure if this is like a bare spot in the paint or if it's like a reflection off of something next to it. I'm thinking this is like somewhere where some repair has been done to the body of this car. So, yeah, that's what it is. Somebody repaired something here and has not completed the job. They have a Pennsylvania dealer plate on it in the picture, which is kind of questionable. Seats have some stains. Like I said, it's automatic, which sucks. 230,000 miles. Says that it just was inspected in February, so that's good. Says it has a tapping valve. That doesn't really mean anything in a Honda like that, but okay. If it is a tapping valve, there's a distinct possibility that this car has a knock in the motor, but sometimes they'll have a knock and they'll be like, oh, it's just a valve noise. I probably wouldn't buy it. So, oh, I looked at this thing. I've seen this truck in a couple different places, and every time I see it, it has like a variation in the description. So like there was one, I saw it posted on like Facebook Marketplace, and when it was posted there, this whole camouflage outfit was done all over the truck. Like it wasn't like halfway messed up here. And on Facebook it said that it just wouldn't go into overdrive but still drove normal. And then I saw another ad that he had, and it was also the same pictures with like the full wrap, but he said that it didn't have reverse. And then now he says it runs good. I would consider this a project truck. We'll need a transmission. Has a 6-inch rough country lift on it. Probably need a driver's side door. Body's in pretty good shape for the age. May consider trade. So, once again, like I said before with the other Dodge earlier in the video, if you were watching at that time, these Dodges, the transmissions are expensive as hell. So just keep that in mind. Like, I wouldn't even make an offer on this until I knew what it would cost me to buy a transmission for it today. Because if you buy it thinking a price, like if you bought another Dodge transmission a couple months ago for whatever, 300 bucks, you might get surprised and find out that they're trying to get $800-900 for the transmission now, and then you'll be up shit's creek. So I'm just trying to look for something that'll have something interesting to say about it at this point. So 93 Corvette. See here. It's running. It was running, but now it won't start. Okay. You could tell us a little more about it. But okay. It's nice. Nice shape on the inside. Too bad it's automatic. A lot of these C4 Corvettes are automatic though, so it's nothing really to get in a twist about, because I don't think I've seen too many that are manual. Has a LT1 just like the Trans Am that I recently sold. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably not buy it. I'd like to at least hear it run. Not that it's not worth $1,300, because a Corvette, I don't care what Corvette it is or how crappy like that particular body style is. Like the C4 is like my least desirable Corvette, but I would still probably buy it if I could hear it run for $1,300. But you probably would be asking more than $1,300 if you could get it to run, I guess. So catch-22. Oh, I saw this earlier and I was very interested in it. So this is a 74 Nova. Now this isn't really an example of something you could buy and make money on, because it probably will need $30,000 worth of body work and everything else to be worth anything. But the story on it is why it's interesting. So it's a 74 Nova. So 74 is like the newest I would go with the GM muscle car type of thing. You get a 75 and that thing's ugly as hell. 74 is really my cutoff, and it has to be a 2-door. I don't want like no 4-door Chevelle or 4-door Nova. That's stupid. But it's a 74 Nova. It's a 2-door. It's got a 350 in it, which is whatever. Like at one time, 350s and like small block engines were considered kind of like how like we would consider a V6 Mustang now. Funny enough, like if somebody saw you and you had like a 305 or a 350 in your car, they were like, yeah, it's just a small block. But now, you know, it's, you know, oh yeah, it's got a 350, it's cool. It's like, okay, whatever you say, man. But it's got a 350 in it. Probably gonna be a 2-bolt main 350, but we'd have to run the numbers on the deal to find out. Just looking at it real quick, looks like it doesn't have any power steering pump on it at all. So you better get some big muscles to drive that car. But I actually don't even see. Okay, yeah, it does have. Looks like it has a steering box back here, maybe. I'd have to look at it in person, I don't know. Looks like they have headers on it, so yeah. Has a turbo 350 transmission in it with a Hurst shifter, which is pretty much worth nothing to me, but okay. Car was an Arizona car, very little rust anywhere on it. Here's the issue. The vehicle has a jump title. This may be corrected at DMV. I don't know what he means by that. Does he mean that somebody sold the car to him on an open title, which means like they just signed the seller's signature and then went ahead and left the rest of it blank? At that point, like, what's the point? Why'd you even mention it? Or does he mean that somebody bought the car, filled out their part of the title, like where they write their name as a buyer, and then never actually retitled it? Because if that's the case, there's really nothing you can do with this car. Because if they have skipped if they have filled all that out, the only person that can get a title for the car at this point is going to be that person that filled it out. So it's sad, because I actually like this car and I would enjoy having it, but the thing is, if it ain't got the paperwork straight on it, it's not really worth anything to me. It's very difficult for me to do something if it ain't got the paperwork straight. So let me go ahead and just read our last comment here. He said, Paul Tracy again, blowing up my comments here, saying that he thinks I should look for a red Volkswagen Caddy and wear a scarf when I drive around with the top down. That is a little fruity. You know, I know that Paul is a LGBT activist. You know, he'll do just about anything for $20, so I understand why he might be trying to push me into his fruity lifestyle, but yeah, I'm not really into it. I would definitely drive a cabriolet though, you know, top down, all that. Especially like if it were like a VR6 swapped cabbie, that'd be kind of cool. But as far as the likelihood of me driving one with a scarf with the top down, nah, it's a little too much, man. Anyway, So, we're going on just over an hour right now. If you guys are watching this and you're not already subscribed and you've been listening to my voice and looking at my ugly face this long, then you might as well just go ahead and subscribe. I mean, what, at this point, you might as well just do it, right? And if you like this video, go ahead and leave it a like. And we're on our second stream today, so you know I am making stuff all the time. You can always, if you're watching this video after the fact, which I'm assuming most of you will be, you can drop down in the comments any suggestions on other videos or streams you want to see, and I will do my best to make it happen for you. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys